Revolution.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the best comics of the week here at Weird Science. I'm in the Weird Science studios, which means I'm in my basement in a kind of like, I don't know if I'd call it a coffin, but it's a little bigger than that, but I'm in a wooden box as we look back at this past week of comics, and then as we put that away, maybe even at the end, look forward to what's coming up next week, though I will have my preview show that will really do that on. But hey, welcome to the show. I hope that everybody had a good week, and maybe there'll be a lot of people who, familiar faces that have joined me throughout the week where we had some crazy things here at Weird Science, like our 4.5 hour live stream on Friday night, which was really fun. A lot of people have reached out and want to do that like every night. And I'm like, nope. What I mean is, no, we're going to have an 8-hour stream every night. I'll just take all the computer stuff up to my room, and as I fall asleep, we'll talk comics and love and life, and as I've said, everything in between. But here we are, and this is the best of show where we go through the books that I personally liked a lot this week. I think that DC had a really good week. This week, Marvel still struggling, but I did find something, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of other books that people like that I didn't necessarily love, and some things this week almost got to the best of, and that is always the case. I mean, it is always the case that there'll be some books that maybe like you thought were like an 8.5, I thought was a 7.5, and me and Gray had talked. At one point, we had to kind of come up with an idea of what would make the show. And we figured for best of, you can't have like everything over a 5 out of 10, right? You have to have some sort of deal. And we figured what we would consider like 8 out of 10. Books that would have an 8 out of 10 scoring. And I'm not talking on shill level scoring, because actually an 8 out of 10 for some of these reviewers nowadays, that's like mine and your 2 out of 10. That is there. And no sus scoring like what Gabe does. I mean, who needs that? Who needs sus Gabe scoring, though? One of the books that I will end up talking about and having on this list was something that me and Gabe did talk about on our DC Comics podcast, and we both really did enjoy that. Now, if you think I'm hemming and hawing here, it might be because I was trying desperately to load up my notes, because I have my list of books that I do like. So now that I have loaded it up and we're ready to go, I will tell everybody. First off, I hope that everybody subscribes to the channel if you already haven't, like the video, all that stuff. But again, I hope that everybody had a good week, a good weekend, and, had some books that they did enjoy. So with that, everybody, if you're listening to this while we're doing the live stream, because we live stream the show every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time, or a couple minutes after, or if you're listening to the replay, please let me know what your favorite books of the week were, because that is how I have actually added a bunch of books to not only my pull list, but also the things that I end up reviewing. So please let us know, let everybody know. And it's cool when people end up being enthusiastic about comics. It's amazing how, we kind of get away from fighting. And people can have a smile on their face, and they can remember that they actually like comics, and that it's not all about, outrage and crazy thing, even though this week on Twitter, I keep saying this everything that I record, but this week a guy ended up saying that I was bad faith rage baiter Jim.
How dare you?
That's what he said, because I ended up asking, is this Amazing Spider-Man a good start that might be better than some of the things that we've had in the recent past? God forbid. God forbid that you want to know if things are better. I don't know. I asked him what he meant by that, and he just kept saying that he doesn't talk to rage baiters and things like that. I think he's some sort of baiter. I'm not going to say what. I said baiter, Jenny, not banger. But here we go, and I'm going to start with DC, as we usually do. And in that, a lot of books. A lot of the books that I'm going to be talking about tonight are DC books. I am typically more of a DC fan anyway. That doesn't mean that I will artificially pump some of these books up, though. But I am always glad when we have, I'm always glad when we have good books all over the place. But I am really glad when we have DC books. And I'm going to start with Absolute Batman number 7. And I have really enjoyed Absolute Batman number 7, though, I really do like kicking babies into the ocean. This issue, number 7, a Mr. Freeze issue, you did end up having a bit of a, well, not a bit of, we did have an art change. Marcos Martin on art with Scott Snyder writing, obviously. This is at like, and I brought up the idea of an 8 out of 10 and beyond, like that sort of thing is what makes the list. This just made the list. This was at the, I still liked it, but this wasn't as big and bombastic as the issue before when we're kicking babies. But also, I don't know, it's 7 issues in and we've had 2 fill-in artists. And yeah, it kind of makes sense the way that they're doing. The last fill-in I didn't like. I didn't mind this as much, and some of it was just downright horrific. And it is going with a new deal with Mr. Freeze or Mr. Freeze Jr., that sort of deal. So it makes kind of sense. But I like the Nick Dragotta art. Some don't. But I do like it. And when you have a book as big as this, it's odd having 7 issues and already 2 fill-in artists. So that is something to maybe be a little bit concerned with. And Brandon says in the chat that one thing that was really big about Batman is Batman's chin, a bit of a Jay Leno or Matt Smith look. He was very, very chinny chin on the deal. I think that it's one where he was trying to make him look like a big lug because he's a huge dude, right? He's big. Yeah, that chin, you could land a plane on it. It was pretty crazy. So I did like it, though. And again, if you haven't read it, it introduces Mr. Freeze into the Absolute Universe, but there's a twist to it. I kind of alluded to it. I don't want to spoil anything on the show, but I kind of alluded to the deal that there is a twist. It's kind of an odd play and try to figure out how they get to this one point, but you also have the Matches Malone of the Absolute Universe, R.I.P., and also the fact that the Rogues Gallery friends of Bruce have all figured out, they've kind of talked with each other, and everybody knows, mainly because Bruce has just pretty much let it out of the bag in a, not like a, hey, listen, I've got to talk to you guys way, but they all know he's Batman now, and they're pretty pissed. They're supposed to have trust, they're friends, and he ended up not telling them. And if you notice in the issue, Bruce isn't like backing off and saying, oh man, I'm sorry about that. That was really bad. I mean, I was thinking of doing it. He just kind of stands there and kind of takes it and then seems to leave. So in that, I think that we're seeing maybe a little splintering of at least the friends, maybe not all of them. And I want to see what happens when I want to see Selina come back into Gotham and see what she's up to and see what she thinks of all that, because you could even go with the idea of Selina says, oh, well, I heard news of this, but I knew it was you. I mean, first off, the friends are sitting there. This guy's 9 foot tall with a huge chin, right? He's there. It's not that much of a stretch to say, oh, that 9 foot guy with the big chin. Yeah, I think he might be our friend Bruce. But again, that's a crazy thing. And just think of the idea where, yeah, they're his friends. But how many friends of Bruce, especially that early in his career, how many friends of Bruce knew that he was Batman? This is pretty crazy. Then throw in the fact that they're not always there on the up and up. Oswald's already doing some crazy things. You end up where Croc got some exotic animals from him. He's a little bit on that side of the law. Who knows what'll happen? So I thought that that was a pretty cool little deal. Something that was kind of like it was there, but pushed aside a little bit more than what the main thing was, the Mr. Freeze stuff. And at the end, holy moly, you get this horrific deal that I said on our review, which if you want to hear me and Gray talk about the Absolute Batman, you can go and listen to our live stream. You can listen to the replay of that that's on the channel right now. And then if you want to hang out for another 4 hours or so, it'll be there as well, where a lot of people were hanging and we were talking stuff. But the actual review, I should put a timestamp. It should just be Absolute Batman number 7, do 0 to 45 minutes, and then the rest, boom, the rest. That'd be pretty cool. The rest, as was mentioned and there was a big diss this week, and if people did read, and I'll actually push forward to the next book with that. It's not really on my list next, but with the rest, there is the biggest diss for Tim Drake, this side of having Megan Fitzmartin actually write his book. In the Batman and Robin, they're desperately trying to find Damian. Batman is infected by, or at least affected by, the Gravedigger's Poppy. He's losing his mind, and he's yelling, go and find your brother, as he's going around. Then he goes and reads the journal, but he's yelling to them. And you end up where they're talking, and Barbara's like, we got them all out there. It's really great. And they're going down the line. You end up having Nightwing, Oracle, you got, Jason Todd, The Signal, Duke Thomas, and then it says, and the others. And the others is Tim Drake and Stephanie. Tim Drake, who every time Robin has gotten pissy, ripped the R off and said, Robin no more. Tim Drake's always running into, I'll be Robin again. And then when Batman in the Chip Zdarsky run, Batman gets lost in the multiverse, Tim is the one who goes and gets him, but yet he's and the rest. Oh my God, what a diss. But I'll go with this Batman and Robin number 20, written by Philip Kennedy Johnson, with art by Miguel Mendonca, Junie Baugh, and Hugo Petrus. You have 3 artists on the book, but there's a reason why, because you end up seeing the journals of Thomas Wayne. You then end up getting the current book, the current time, where Batman is losing his mind on the Gravedigger's Poppy. He's trying to figure out where Memento is, because Memento has Damian. And then in the meantime, that leads him back home, and he gets the Crazy Journal of Damian. That's the Junie Baugh art. And I did like the difference between, you end up having the classic pencil lines of a Thomas Wayne to then go and have the manga anime influence Damian. I thought that was really cool, but kind of combining the stories and Damian going through Thomas Wayne's journal to almost get a glimpse at what his dad was before he was Batman, which also ended up going where he's like, okay, it also makes it seem of what he could have been if he wasn't Batman. And then Damian kind of going with, hey, what would I be? I hate being just this thing that the League of Shadow, they're going after me, and then I'm Robin, but I want to do something else with my life. And it seems that, and he does even say, but one of the things that's funny, Damian kind of says, when everything in Gotham gets cleaned up, I think I might end up, doing stuff at the hospital and doing that, and not being Robin. Well, first off, Damian, spoiler, things are never getting cleaned up. They never do. They never are. And so when you have all that, it's like, that's a pipe dream indeed. And then I think that he decides, I think that what happens is that Bruce ends up saying, listen, you should have more things going on. You should be more well-rounded, and so should I. And I think at the end they start sailing paper boats together and then look at each other and say, this is boring as hell. Let's go do something else, which would be patrol. But I like the play. It ends up where Bruce finds out a little more of what makes Damian tick and things that Damian probably never would say. But there is a funny part. Bruce is on the Gravedigger's Poppy, right? So he's going through these books. And then he gets done. He's like, I know Damian. Damian said that he was on the case and he was trying to find Memento. But when he says in this journal of, I think this Memento is something that my dad won't accept, what does he mean? And then Ghost Alfred comes in, all bloodied up too. I'm surprised Alfred's head wasn't screwed around like a screw. Like that, he's like, oh, look at the pictures. It's right there. Bruce, you keep saying to Damian that it couldn't really be supernatural Memento for what. That's what he means. Everybody knew it, but we'll have to see what's going on. And there's even talk of the detective Lautrec, that Damian thinks she's pretty keen, and just going through the whole thing and even wishing that his dad would have had a better opportunity to just be himself, not just the mission of the Batman. So it was really good. It was really, really good. Now, some people have said that they expect it to be up for an Eisner. That would be more because of the art and the Thomas Wayne journal. And then I get it. I don't think it was that good, but I did like it. I did like it a lot. And while I thought and hoped that we were going to get a little closer to maybe Memento and also Damian being saved, I see what they're doing here. And I do think that the book will at least end in this numbering in September. This is one of the things that I've been talking about a lot, is that when Batman goes in the new number 1 in September, I think that there's going to be a bunch of books that will renumber or go away, get new creative teams, whatever. But if they do that, I actually hope that Philip Kennedy Johnson is allowed to stay on Batman and Robin. And I say this, and some people hate renumber. Oh my God, not a reboot, just a number 1. And I do think that when you have a new creative team, give them the benefit of a new number 1, especially when it's a Batman and Robin book that Joshua Williamson was doing. Philip Kennedy Johnson jumps on it, and not many people even knew that there was some change. And I had a video where I thought that Green Arrow and Batman and Robin should have had new number ones. I thought that, give Chris Condon on Green Arrow and also give Philip Kennedy Johnson on Batman and Robin, give them a little bit of push, and they didn't do it. And it was odd. And then when I start figuring out and you see things, I think it was because if they renumbered then, which is, a couple months ago, then you really would look shitty, or maybe like Marvel, right? There's a joke, renumbering again in September. So I thought that they probably already had the idea, listen, we're going to reboot Batman, or renumber Batman in number one. Let's wait till then, and we'll see, and we'll renumber things, because when people see a Batman number one, they're going to run to the comic store, hopefully, and grab it. And then if you have other number ones, they might be inclined to say, oh, well, I'm getting this Batman number one. Oh, Batman and Robin number one? I think I'll pick that up too. Green Arrow number one? I'll get that too. One for me, boss. Me, boss. I call that. So I don't know. I might be completely wrong. But I think that might be something that they're trying to maybe set up, where you have a bunch of new number ones, maybe new creative teams, maybe not. There's not a lot of creative. I was going to say not a lot of creative people around nowadays. But there's not a lot of writers around that you could say, oh my God, I hope they get like all new writers on every book or whatever. There's not many, and it's kind of sad at a point. But I think that Batman and Robin this week was really good. And if you have been reading and maybe fallen off, or maybe it's not a jumping on point. But yeah, every issue is somebody's first issue. But I think that if you haven't been reading Philip Kennedy Johnson's Batman and Robin, you should do yourself a favor and go and do that, because it is really, really good. I'll move on to the next book, which is Aquaman number 4. It's written by Jeremy Adams with art by John Timms. The story itself is still a little bit like out there. You end up with Aquaman. He's trying to find Atlantis, Mara, his kid Andy, all of this going on, ends up with Arian and this Vivian in the blue, which is kind of the clear from before, but also it's like the green. It's one of those, but it's the life force of the waters. And Aquaman had been captured, and they're taking him to Dagon, who seems at a point where you even have Arian like, why would he want him? But we'll have to see with that. You have Laurie grabbing a mermaid, Laurie, the former love interest of Superman or Superboy. But you end up where Aquaman breaks free. And the big thing in this issue, it's very over-the-top action, but I still really did like it. You end up having Vivian actually finally make the sword/trident, or trident sword, I say it's called, for Aquaman, where he then kind of takes it to the street and slices this boat up and says, if Dagon wants me, you tell him to come and get me. And it was pretty cool. And the art was really neat. And one of the things around this issue that's kind of cool is when he came up with the idea of this trident sword, you have Jeremy Adams ran off and grabbed a bunch of supplies at like a Home Depot or whatever, and made himself a mock-up of the trident sword, and then filmed himself kind of using it to show John Timms. Now, there's a video of all this. Hopefully, down the line, Jeremy Adams doesn't become the next Star Wars kids, because you don't need that. Jumping around. It would have been funny if he made it just like that. He's jumping around, falling. And then he does a karate deal and hits himself with nunchucks. You could do it all. It'd be so cool. But it ends up being one of those things, the idea that Jeremy Adams is such a nerdy guy doing this and really loves what he's doing, it does shine through in the book. It does 100%. When somebody's having fun like that, I do think that you can see it in the writing, because that book is a lot of fun to read. It's one of those, and in that though, when he's talking, when Arthur's like, I can't believe, Laurie, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? This isn't you. It seems like she is being blackmailed somehow. So we'll figure out that. I think that eventually you'll see that she's being coerced. They'll try to help her. In the meantime, though, she does say, because Aquaman's like, I need to know what's going on with Mara, with Andy, with Atlantis. And she says, well, if I told you that, it would be like I was stabbing you myself, and I don't want to do that. And that's really, really crazy, of the idea of, you know what I mean, that something bad has really happened. And when we were talking about it on the podcast, me and Sus Gabe, I said, I mean, story-wise, I don't want anything to happen to Andy or Mara, But story-wise, if something really bad did happen, that would up the ante, and we'll see what it is. But I don't think it's something horrifically bad. BB says, "Is it just me, or is it strange to hear mention of the Lady of the Lake? I always think of that as related to Merlin, and therefore a Marvel thing in DC always seemed to lean more into Greek mythology. The thing is, with Arian and some of the old school Atlantis stuff, it did kind of feel a bit like King Arthur and stuff like that a little. It was more wizards and stuff, a lot of the stuff with the past Aquaman stuff. And Arian in that, he is a wizard. He goes, so it kind of works that way. And then having it, I think just because of the idea that Aquaman, the water, you have the blue, I think that they're playing that as well. But yeah, I mean, if you think about the gods at DC, you would think more of the Greek gods, mainly because of the pantheon with Wonder Woman. That is a huge thing. But like I said, a lot of the stuff, if you end up looking back at the Aquaman stuff, it does involve a lot of wizards, a lot of magic like that. So it kind of does fit in that sort of way. And again, I think they're going more of the blue and the water deal with that. Also, actually, you say that if you do go back and do, and yeah, Enzo actually just said I was going. If you go back and actually go to the New 52 even and read the Demon Knights book, that is very big on, and Merlin's in it. Merlin has been in the books, and yeah, Etrigan ends up, he rhymes and steals too. He likes to do the rhyming and stealing. He's part of Arthurian lore as well. So it's something that I think I think BB's right though. And I think BB's completely right, mainly because we don't see that much from DC anymore. So that's why I kind of really do like this to kind of push it. But it does feel overall with the sword and stuff. I'll tell you, it did feel at first, not that it wasn't connected or whatever, but it did feel a little, but I like it. I think it's pretty cool. If you would have had like the arm reaching out of the water with just a sword, having a trident sword, though, was really cool addition and to add that to it. So, and yeah, Etrigan, that guy rhymes and steals. And I'll tell you, in the overall deal, Eric used to do the DC stuff with me. He hated Etrigan and he hated Bizarro talk. He hated Etrigan for the rhyming and stealing. I can't stand backwards word magic. That's the thing that gets me. Like the rhyming and stealing with Etrigan kind of makes me laugh. And I love at points where he just gives up and barely rhymes because people don't want to do it. I like that. But the backwards word magic drives me completely insane, like Crazy Eddie back in the day. But when you end up having that, yeah, the whole deal of the Arthurian Theo. And again, it's funny too because Aquaman's name's Arthur. So it kind of is a funny thing. And he is a king. So there you go. I think it's kind of a cool deal. And yeah, BB even says the trident sword is awesome. Yeah, a lot of times when they want to power up something like that, you'll get, like, if anybody remembers near, I think it was the DCYOU right before Rebirth, they ended up having like, look at Wonder Woman in this new outfit. And she had these gauntlets that then she'd have like, almost like ninja swords. So you never saw them because they were ridiculous. But they do stuff like that. Or they'll put like an extra shoulder pad on somebody. So I like the trident sword. I think that was really, really cool. Man, that's the thing. Dungeon Crawler Carl says, backwards I can read normal. I hate Etrigan rhyming. I'm telling you, backwards drives me nuts, mainly because nobody has ever made the convention of, okay, when it's backwards, you read right to left, left to right. Anybody who does it differently. When you end up having Etrigan say, it's time for me to act real hardy. Let's go, boys. It's time to party. Like, I can read that any day of the week. I rap it out. Worst was in the Batman Damned. Maybe it was the best. If you remember that Batman Damned, that of course was famous for the Bat Wang back in the day.
How dare you?
They actually did have Etrigan. He was full out rapper. He pretty much had the chains. He had like a VW deal. Like he was freaking Mike D from the Beastie Boys. It was pretty crazy. And again, it was cringe worthy as well, but it made me giggle. It made me giggle that he was rhyming and stealing. That's when I started saying the rhyming and stealing, obviously, from a Beastie Boys song as well. But we'll continue on with DC, and we might as well stay with maybe Jeremy Adams, because there's talk about this. There's talk about the idea that possibly the Green Lantern Corps book is more written by Morgan Hampton, because on the credits, it's Jeremy Adams, Morgan Hampton, and Fernando Pasarin on art. Now, if that's the case, I was very worried, because Morgan Hampton wrote that Cyborg book that I thought was complete garbage. So I was worried. And I kind of got, well, why would Jeremy Adams if there's no backup? I don't think Jeremy Adams needs help writing, but maybe Morgan Hampton needed a little push. Maybe if they just had Morgan Hampton as the writer, people might not grab it as much as they would if Jeremy Adams is written. So I thought, boy, that's cool to be elevated for Jeremy Adams, a guy who didn't think he was even going to have work at one point, to now be good enough and big enough that you can put his name on so that somebody a little less can sell. That's fine. But I was worried. And Jeremy Adams has said he contributes whatnot, but I really like it. I really like Green Lantern Corps. It's actually shocked me how much I have liked it. It's really over the top. But once they introduce or reintroduce Atrocitus and the Red Lanterns in a landscape of having the batteries down in this fractured spectrum, I thought, oh, God, they're going to say something stupid. They're going to end up messing up something in the idea where Red Lanterns, if you don't end up having the battery in your ring, you die. You don't have a heart. You die. One of the weirdest way of getting out of that was when Supergirl was a Red Lantern, the Red Daughter of Krypton. And when she got rid of that, she flew into the sun so that her heart came back, maybe 3 sizes bigger that day. It just might have happened. But they did explain in a weird way that Zillia Socks kind of became the Red Lantern battery. And if you ended up being a fan of the Red Lantern book, especially I think it was Charles Soule's part later on, not the Peter Milligan stuff at the beginning, but even so, when you end up having Zillia Socks became a big thing in like the middle of the New 52, you end up liking Zillius, and then you see him there as this battery, and you kind of feel bad for him, but it was really, really cool. And obviously they saw Atrocitus last pretty much thing he saw were Green Lanterns going and destroying the battery, but it was the United Planets deal, and it's hard to explain or reason with an Atrocitus. But in the meantime, they're at the ruins of New Thanagar, and there was this giant egg, this nth metal egg, that hatches. You get Horus the god, and it was pretty good. You end up at one point where it did feel like I thought you were going to get Shiera become a Red Lantern. I know people would have lost their minds, fans of Hawkwoman, but it looked like that was going to happen. But she was affected by something, if it was the fractured spectrum, because she was getting angry. And all that going on, and plus you have Nate Dogg, the Sorrow Lantern, and even Shiera, finally somebody bringing up to John. Yeah, I heard that when Green Lanterns, like, make construct people, you know, like dead people, and bring them back as that doesn't work out. Like, I think 2 words come to mind, para and lax. And finally, it shouldn't be Shiera who brought it up. It should have been Hal, who at one point said, yeah, we'll get back to that. I want to talk to you about this. That shouldn't have been, we'll get back to it. It should have been right there. They should have went full out and, you know, had something with Hal saying to John, I get it. I mean, I do get it. But you got to get it gone because this stuff is bad. And I can tell you I get that too. But Shire kind of brings it up. I think that it was brought up just so that it was a reminder. Hey, by the way, if you weren't realizing that Ellie, as John says, hey, she's a construct. Because she's not even construct looking anymore. She just looks like a normal deal. But overall, the whole play of, you know, this whole deal with the fractured spectrum. I like that we have a new or a Green Lantern Corps book so that it can do some of the work with the Green Lantern book, this fractured spectrum. I want to keep going with that, see how they end up stopping Nate and Starbreaker, because Nate at the end, he's there gathering up pieces of the old Red Lantern battery. And if he gets a battery, that's big trouble. In the meantime, the Corps, Green Lantern Corps, they're trying to get batteries back for all of the colors. I really wish right now that you ended up having what was kind of the new Guardians book in the New 52, where you had Kyle Rayner, Atrocitus, Carol Farrer. You had all the colors as one team. I think it's set up to do that. They're trying to bring back the batteries of each of the colors. I thought that would be pretty cool. Maybe they're setting it up because they do have Atrocitus. Atrocitus is just mad. You guys destroyed my battery. I think it was you. Oh, what are you going to do about... Oh, they put him in a science cell. I'm like, oh, poor Atrocitus. Right in the science cell he goes. Also, you get Dexter in it. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Bleeze didn't do much in this issue at all. She was kind of in the background. But you do continue having Razor, former Red Lantern, being a Green Lantern, which is kind of cool, too. And he's kind of giving some info about all that. But I think, let me see, I got to go to my notes again, and I'm losing track here of what is next because I think that is it for my DC books. So that's pretty good, though. I end up having 4 DC books, or maybe 5. What was it? You had the We'll do a little recap here, so I know. Absolute Batman number 7. You had Batman and Robin number 20, Aquaman number 4, and Green Lantern Corps number 3. So if that is the correct count, 17. I think I just counted. Now DC had a strong week. They really did, and there are a lot of good books around. It's tougher to find them at Marvel, I think, but there's still some. So when I end up seeing videos or I end up reviewing something, and yeah, not everything's hitting. So you have a review for a book and you're like, yeah, I wish this was better. It's not that good. And then people just straight up come out and like, everything's garbage. Like, I get it. I get the deal, but it's not really true. There's always something to read. It just ends up. But on the opposite side, though, I hate when people like, show up and because you're reviewing something and you just don't like that book, oh, you hate everything. Because that's not true either. There is a happy medium. There's a very happy medium. I wish I could be in that happy medium a lot more. Fearmonic said the Bat Dung. And also Dungeon Crawler Carl says Dexter is the best. I love Dexter. Dexter. If you don't know, it's kind of a funny play. You had Shane Davis and Jeff Johns create Dexter. And he was just going to be on a panel on a spread page. And Jeff Johns really liked it. It was, Shane. So they ended up they kind of named it after Shane's cat, and they just had fun with it. But I do like Dexter a lot. I love Zillius Socks. He looks like a giant mad ball, which makes me laugh all the time. And I wish I could remember, but one of the greatest interactions in the new 52 Red Lantern book was when you had Zillius Socks, who is a ball. He's round, kind of arguing almost philosophically what life meant with the square cubed gelatin cube alien Green Lantern, that they couldn't come together because I'm round, you're square, but then they end up becoming kind of friends. It was pretty good. It was really good. I do like stuff like that, but we're going to move over to Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics, Marvel Comics didn't have as good a week as DC in my mind. You did have Amazing Spider-Man number 1. That is not on my list. I liked it a little more than the 8 Deaths. I can't really say that I like it more or less than Zeb Wells' run, but I think I had a little more fun than a lot of the issues of Zeb Wells' run, but it still ended up feeling odd. It feels like, brand new day again. One more day again with a brand new day. Everything felt like it was just, we've seen this and done this. And there's even been people who put out panels with the beginning of Brand New Day. It's almost exact. They end up where every time we start Spider-Man in a new run like this, it feels like they de-age him a couple years, or at least it's almost like when you reset things, he just goes back. And it'd be kind of funny if they did have some sort of story later, maybe they do, but a story that would actually establish that when things do happen like that, it is legit where his body is I don't know. It's so ridiculous. And my big play of it, though, and again, I'm trying to do the positive best of, but this is the big book of the week. My play that I've talked about over and over again on all sorts of things is that it just feels like Nick Lowe and the Marvel editors, the Marvel side of things at Disney, they just will not evolve. They think that everybody else is just okay with whatever they give them, and that they think things are smooth sailing, and they did not have to do anything to wow customers because everybody will always buy Spider-Man. And I think those days are getting less and less. If you keep doing stuff like this, you start seeing that what limited sales numbers we have. We see the Amazing Spider-Man leaving the top 10, which is insane. And you hear less and less hype. And then where I say less and less hype, in that 8 Deaths of Spider-Man, Peter Parker Spider-Man died. Legitimately died. It was not oh my God, that was, some crazy Mysterio thing or whatever. He died. He was brought back. Also, everybody probably knew that, obviously, but he did die, and there wasn't a whimper. There wasn't anything about it. The snap of Peter's neck was louder than anything that came after it because nobody cared. Nobody was barely reading it. Nobody cared to talk. And it's one of those things where when people, I'll tell you right now, when things like a Spider-Man are bad, it tends to where you can benefit if you're reviewing. I'm not going to lie. If you end up where everybody's riled up and you have a video, oh my God, this is the worst, like you start yelling, which a lot of people do, you're going to get clicks because people, especially when people stop reading something like that, they're going to watch your video to learn what happened, see if it's okay to come back, or to just commiserate of, man, it does suck. So it does benefit in a certain way. But overall, and eventually, that dies out. And I'll tell you, when you see some clicks and things and reviews, and my man Gray, me and him have talked about it, at the point in Zebwell's run when Miss Marvel died, and the lead up to it, somebody was going to die. Everybody thought MJ was in that 25. Things were hitting. People were watching videos, whatever. When that ended up being a dud, Miss Marvel, yeah, there's people with the Miss Marvel videos. But after that, it was tough to get people to watch or listen to or read a review for Spider-Man because nobody was hyped up anymore. And then you get this new #1. People are hyped and hyped, but I'd rather talk about how great. Just imagine the hype of, hey, everybody, this Spider-Man has stunk for so long, but this is awesome. This is the greatest thing ever. You got to read it. And people getting excited and want to talk about it. And we just don't have it. So it's not on my list. There you go. That's in the best of. That's just a little aside. That Marvel needs Spider-Man to be good. People have the Ultimate Spider-Man now. So you can say, well, they have the Ultimate Spider-Man. That's good. And I said in my review, which some people disagreed with me, but that should be not an exact blueprint, but that should show Nick Lowe and these other smacked asses what people want. You don't have to be exact to Ultimate Spider-Man, but what it means to me, it doesn't necessarily mean, and they get stuck in this deal, Mary Jane Peter, and even, I'm not saying fans, I'm saying the idea of like Nick Lowe fighting back. We don't want to Mary Jane, Mary. It's not just that. We were talking about this morning, me and Sully, on our Sunday morning conversation. The idea, it's more of, let Peter grow a little. Don't reset and make him 18 every time you start. And that's what he looks like again in this. Have him do things. And what ends up happening at this point then is as things go, you know that a death doesn't mean anything. You know that him having a company and losing it doesn't mean anything because it's going to reset anyway. And then use as a joke later. Oh, that Parker luck. No, have things stick a little. Have him mature a little bit. But they don't. And a lot of people, even if it is the idea of having Mary Jane and Peter, that's just the personification of him maturing and getting out of this rut that we're stuck in forever. Ay, Nick Lowe, is he listening? Is he in the chat? If he is, I don't know. And he just keeps saying, and then also throw on top of that, the guy, antagonizes fans. That's a good play. That's smart. What a smart guy. And then he thinks he's funny that every week, Spider, my book of the week is The Amazing Spider-Man. I'm not biased at all. I can't believe it. I like that Spider-Man. And he's, what a jerk. But my Marvel book is, all that. My Marvel book is Daredevil #20. Written by Saladin Ahmed, art by Jose Luis Suarez, and it is a jumping on point for anybody who hasn't been reading or ended up, like me, dropping it a bit during the overlong 7 Deadly Sins story. That went on way too long, in my opinion, and I couldn't take it for a while, though even at the beginning when people were arguing about what was going on, there was videos. Wes from Thinking Critical had a video. You could go back to the video and see right at the top, one little Jimmy boy arguing about the idea that, no, what you're seeing in this is the 7 Deadly Sins. I was right there, right on board, right away, said, no, this is sloth. This is the 7 Deadly Sins. And then a couple issues later, Matt figured it out. It's just, some people figured it out before. But with that, I kind of got bored with it. And I said, I think it was like issue 7 or 8 where I kind of bailed. And then I think I came back to check in at like issue 12. Oh, 7 Deadly Sins still? Okay, 15, 7 Deadly Sins. And then 8. Oh, okay, finally at 19, that story ended. So we have a new story arc starting. And it has a pretty cool way to catch you up in this. I mean, it's not a cool way. It's actually something that shouldn't be that outrageous or whatever. It's that, naturally you kind of catch up with what happened in the seven deadly sins, but this is more of a it's a self-contained thing. It looks like you have this crazy apartment complex that Matt is shacking up with a former flame, and I am lax in my duties if I don't mention that this issue also has plenty of side boob. But you get that there, which is pretty cool, pretty cool. But Matt's in this apartment. A girl goes missing. Matt tries to go out and find things, but it more is the fungus among us from within us. And you end up having like a body horror fungus type story where at the end, Matt is kind of thrown in the basement, has the crazy fungus going out, and the geeky puppet show says sup, and I'll say sup back. So we end up with that. That's my Marvel book. And Fear Monarch says, I enjoyed Hulk enough. Really fantastic fill-in art that 100% understood the vibe of the series so far. And I believe it wasn't Nick Klein. What was there? I can't even remember. Now, it was pretty good. I keep saying every show that I've done in the past like 3 days, I keep saying that after this, I'm going to record my Incredible Hulk review. And then I end up doing other things besides my Incredible Hulk review. And I did like the issue. It didn't quite make the 8. I believe, and just as a spoiler I think I gave it a 7 or a 7.5. One of my things in it to spoil my review a bit. And Dungeon Carl said that at the end of the Daredevil, it was like Last of Us. It was 100% like Last of Us. It really was. But in the deal where, and you end up where Geeky Puppet Show says, won't touch him at Daredevil with a 20-foot pole. That cover is cringe. That cover is not good. It is not good at all, but there is side boob in it, and I do like the side boob. With the Incredible Hulk, the thing that threw me off and why I didn't give it a higher score, first off, everything runs through Charlie, which is fine. But when they go to the Sanctum Sanctorum to see Doctor Strange, obviously he's not there. He's in Asgard, but Clea's there. And you end up where Clea's, come on in. It's a trap. It's not Clea. She's maybe dead, but I don't think you could really kill her that way. But the idea that you might want to have shown that a little, like maybe get to the point where, oh my God, this isn't Clea. And then boom, flashback a bit to show, because Clea kind of kicks ass. I love Clea. And the idea that you kind of hand waved that she was taken care of, and they kind of commandeered the Sanctum Sanctorum, maybe tie in a deal with Doctor Strange not being there, but explain that a little more. Maybe we will get a little more, but it did end up kind of being a little thing that just kind of got me. And Fear Monarch said a 7.5 sounds about right. And I think that's around what I was, 7.75 for that, but it doesn't quite make the deal. And and he said he was let down by the whole window bit. It felt like it should have done more. Yeah. So you have that. And there was some cool things in that. You end up getting back to that weird body horror craziness where these werewolves ended up eating Bruce Banner to then allow Hulk to kind of smash through, that we haven't seen in a while. Back in the beginning of the series, we did get that a lot, where you'd have Hulk busting out of Banner, which was pretty crazy. But I'm now off to my last book of the night. My last book of the night is an indie book. I have one indie book now. If people have listened to me on different things, especially with Wes on the Thinking Critical Patreon, me and him have a show that a lot of times I don't get to all of the indie books. But lately, there hasn't been a ton out that I've been that interested in. But again, there's going to be a lot of people say, but what about this? What about this, boss? What about this? And I love when people say that, because it is a bit of a variety. But there's one book that I did like. I've read a bunch of indie, but I have Geiger number 13 on my list, written by Jeff Johns and art by Gary Frank. You have Ash Arden. You have this whole play of what she's up to. She seems very sus. You end up with Dr. Molotov. He's supposed to be dead, but she has him captured in the basement of this place. But then the U.S. Army shows up, and she's like, come on, Tariq, we have to go out. And you find out by the end, I don't want to spoil because it is pretty big, but you find out that she has a real nefarious reasons to try to get Tariq to not quite control his powers. And in the meantime, everybody is in danger. I'm talking everybody. And then at the end, Tariq realizes and finds and runs into Dr. Molotov, knowing now that he wasn't killed and that he is alive, and that Ash might be a straight up liar, because she is a straight up liar. I'm still hoping, because I like the Ash Arden design. I think that she's pretty cool. Plus, we get a little bit of a background of what kind of set her off and things like that. But in the meantime, I wish that there was some way out of her being a villain. I kind of wanted her to be kind of good, though, too. A glowing man and a glowing woman might be a bit OP for everything else, so you got that. But also you get Junkyard Joe's giving Barney a bath, and it was great. And I love at this one point you have where Tariq is opening up. He's talking about the idea of it's tough being me and you, right, Joe? It's tough because every time you go to trust somebody, you realize you shouldn't, and everybody's trying to kill you. And you have Junkyard Joe. It kind of plays off like a Han Chewbacca type of thing a little, but Junkyard Joe's just like staring at him, and he's having flashbacks back to Vietnam. He's like, I get what you're saying there, pal. But I really did like it. I continue to really, really enjoy that book. I really enjoy Redcoat. And I'm really waiting with bated breath for the Rook Exodus to come back. Some of the others, I know that people really like Hyde Street. That's not exactly my cup of tea, that kind of horror anthology type feeling book. But I get that that's something that people would enjoy. Geeky Puppet Show, did you pick up the Vatican City? I love Mark Miller. It's funny. Yeah, him and Breen. Breen and I are thinking this will be the first Mark Miller book we drop. I already reviewed it on our indie podcast. I haven't edited the indie podcast yet. Yeah, in that, and I'm telling you, and I'm glad that Geeky Puppet Show brought up. I was going to completely get out of here before I mention, because I know that people react certain ways, and people really love Mark Miller stuff, especially now. That art is bad. And I know that even that Perberg was on, or Norwald was also, he was on the Aficionado show a couple weeks ago. And yeah, that art is not good. At a point, just to tell you, as I was reviewing it, first off, I think that there might have been 10 Muppets that were murdered in that issue. Also, at one point, you do end up where, if you can picture the scene, the vampire's on top of a bunch of bodies, pile of bodies. And I swear to God, I said while I'm looking at it, I'm like, I see a shark. I think I might see C-3PO's leg. And I also see a spaceship. And I'm like, I don't think that's what it was. And I think the problem too with that book, and I agree, I don't think I'm going to continue. I'm going to give the next issue. I usually give things 3 issues, but that one was so, it didn't get me. And because the art was so bad in my mind, I was struggling to figure out exactly what was going on, to the point then that it didn't seem a lot was going on, even though big things are happening. But what seems to be missing in it, not just the bad art, but I wasn't connected to that character Guido at all. Those kids whose parents died, I didn't care really. And I was just, my eyes hurt, my head hurt, and it just really felt like one of those books that just didn't have it. It just didn't have it. The concept was kind of neat, but even then, the concept of vampires taking over the world in a night, that's not that original. And what I always look for, what you usually get with Mark Miller books, especially when they kick off, are unique characters that I kind of like, especially times when it's like Wanted or, something like that, or even Kingsman, where you're like, I don't like this character, but I kind of do. I want to follow them, and I, have something like that. But it also usually has like a twist that you're like, oh my God, like that's cool. I never saw that. Or he's using this convention to do that. And in this, I just thought, yeah, it was great. And we ended up, when we were talking about the book on our indie review podcast, we got to a point where I had to like kind of stop us. Me and my man Zach were doing, and I said, we got to stop, because we were having fun making fun of the art so much that it felt weird. It felt really bad, so we stopped. So that is not on my list. And yeah, I was kind of kind of upset. Yeah, it does look like that. I'm telling you, what Peter's face in that looked like in The Amazing Spider-Man was like he looked like a Norman Rockwell kid who had drank a little too much eggnog, and that he was like really feeling it, like really starting to get drunk. and about to like maybe pass out or throw up. That's what I. But yeah, it's a shame because I was looking forward to that Vatican City a lot. But yeah, so yeah, and there was I think I mentioned before, and Fear Monarchs. I got to read The Moon Is Following Us when it finishes in a couple issues. It's pretty great, even with Riley Rossmo art. Riley Rossmo I don't really love, but when his art fits, it's okay. I actually didn't even mind his art by the time he left the Stephanie Phillips, what's it called? Harley book. It was okay. It was stuffy. It was like that. It was basically like, I got to calm down. I mean, we're jumping on this poor art that really you can tell it's kind of a little slow. And then you end up where I think there was mention earlier of the Dark Patterns book, and I do have to say, the Dark Patterns I wasn't loving at first. I wasn't really that hyped up on it. I thought that Wound Man story kind of fell flat. I thought some of the things were forced. I was kind of upset, these 3-issue deals, and maybe it needed a couple more. And I didn't love the last issue, the first issue of the Scarface deal. I liked this issue a lot better. I actually really did like this issue. It didn't quite make the deal. I ended up giving it a 7, but I'm telling you, I'm coming from way lower than that to get to that 7. So it's pretty much a jump for me. I did like it, though. I did like it. I thought that it was a cool play with the whole Scarface, and horrific what happened to Wesker. I mean, crazy. But yeah. So, and yeah, it is kind of Legends of the Dark Knight. It is, but it would have been cool to kind of change creative teams. And at one point, Hayden Sherman, whose art actually does fit, just going with the idea of art fitting certain books, I think that his art fits way better Dark Patterns than it does the Absolute Wonder Woman, for sure. But I end up where, again, and Legend of the Dark Knight, one of my favorite books. So I kind of get that as well. And it's being kind of wacky. You have like that supernatural kind of angle to it. And even that, I thought the idea of Scarface being in the building, I know that people probably are like, that's pretty cool. With that couch as the cigar hanging out or whatever, I was like, oh, God. But then when they mention, that lady mentions and says, hey, I hear my dad outside all the time. Yeah, I thought that was cool. But one of the parts when you have that scene made me laugh because Batman is bat-splaining things to that lady. It made me giggle. But yeah, and Breen, I agree. Breen, the deal, it was supposed to be a different artist each 3 issues. And then you end up having Hayden Sherman liking it so much. They said, hey, can I stay and do it all? And they said, yeah, sure, do it. I think it might have been cool to at least have art change for each of the things, kind of get a bunch of different things. And and that's Kelly Thompson. The Absolute Wonder Woman's good, but the last artist, the fill-in artist, was incredible. So with that, and Geeky Puppet also says, I like Pepe Larraz, but only Chichetto could hang out with the OG Spider-Man artist. I know that it's funny because Doc ends up not hating Pepe Larraz. He actually brought it up that he doesn't hate Pepe Larraz, but it's just, kind of derivative of other things, so he doesn't really like it. But yeah, with all that, that's the deal. That's my books of the week. I was disappointed with stuff like the Vatican City. I was really hoping that was going to be like really cool, and it was not. So we'll see. And the art's not going to change, so I probably won't like it. But with all that, I'd love to hear what everybody else thought were their books of the week. And as we went through, I did hear with stuff. Fear Monarch also mentions the idea of Magic Order. Magic Order, and probably, I think that might be my favorite Mark Miller book. I really do like Cordelia. I like the characters. I like the concept of that. Even though, and we're going through on our Patreon, going through Mark Miller books, and I kind of like all of them so far. Vatican City was such a side deal of man, I haven't disliked one of his books in quite some time like that. And it was odd. It was odd and kind of threw me. But overall, yeah, I hope that everybody had some fun talking the best of tomorrow night, Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're interested in me going through some of the books I'm looking forward to next week, we kind of get forward. And that's the thing. It's like the mail. It keeps coming. And or maybe Santa. I don't know. But you end up where I'll go through. And there's some big books next week. At least Marvel has a weird week. Wait till you hear Marvel's next week. Whoo-wee. Not a big one. In fact, me and Matt on our Patreon, me and him also do and we do the Marvel podcast on the regular feed and whatnot, but we also do a crisis events podcast, and we're doing Born Again. We just started because of the show and all. We're going through Frank Miller and Mazzucchelli's Born Again. So we're doing that, and then when we're done, we start talking about, okay, what are we going to review? And we review the Marvel stuff Monday night. And so we're looking at the list, and we're like, what is coming out next week? There's like nothing at all that usually in the last Godzilla issue me and Sully did on Sunday during our chat, that might be like the only book that me and Matt do as our main book, because there's nothing coming out. There's a couple Doom, One World Under Doom tie-ins. I think it's that, Supreme Avengers or something like that. That looks like it's an odd deal, but Geeky Puppet Show says, yes, Redcoat comes out next week. And Redcoat, for the biggest deal, or for the longest time, if people were listening, Redcoat was my favorite. I actually even liked it more than Rook at one point, Rook Exodus, because I liked the history aspect and whatnot. I still think it's great. I still love it, but I kind of like Rook Exodus kind of won everybody's heart and then went away, just like what happens when somebody wins your heart. They then break it. That's from personal experience. But also the play of Geiger has actually really gone. I always did like Geiger was like the steady book that I was like, okay, I did like Geiger before. I still like it, but I needed something. And once Nate showed up and kind of then it elevated for me. But I still do like Redcoat, and it should be a really big issue coming up. So yeah, we have that, and we've been doing those like kind of one-shot things in Redcoat leading up to the stuff that's going. And Brandon says that Marvel Comics isn't a crisis. It is, and not the good kind. The sky isn't turning red like over at DC. It's like, I think that a lot of their books are in the red. There you go. There's some bad books. And they're in the. It must be a real bad time when you start an event like One World Under Doom that is like a 9 to 10 month event, and you see that the hype and the enthusiasm is gone after 2 months, and you know that you still have more than half a year left of it. That can't be good. And I have pretty much lost interest in it full out. Oh, and yeah, here's the thing. He says, when you could get Breen to like a dystopian world, you've won. Breen hates dystopian stuff. So do I. I gotta talk to Breen about that, because I'm sick of them, is what I am. And yeah, you do end up making it work. So, and then Fearmark says both Rook and Redcoat have the potential to be exactly what I'd tell as a story, but it veers off into Jeff Johns writing lovable losers, superheroes. He does that. I'm thankful and kind of disappointed for that. Yeah, and I mean, what I'm thankful for is, while Rook went away, at least it's going away and they told you. It's not a delay, it's going away. But the other books, like Brian Hitch and Jeff Johns, kicking it with the whole deal with Redcoat. I mean, that's going strong. No fill-in artist or anything. Geiger with Gary Frank and Jeff Johns is a combination of, holy moly, we're going to get delays, but they've had some fill-in artists to keep it going. And Jeff Johns, you can see, if he can light a fire under his ass, which is probably, I own this company and get going, then he can keep, and seems to be enthusiastic about it. So I think that's really, really cool. Yeah, and it's Andrew. Andrew said that he bought almost all the books that I talked about, but he didn't read Daredevil 20 or get it because it's hard for Marvel. And Geeky Puppet Show, you take care as well. The idea of that too is Marvel's just tough. And right now, I end up doing a DC podcast. That's the big one. Then we have a Marvel podcast, but I want to make it as big. But the problem is, there's so many books, but it's like hardly any of them are good. But I did have somebody on our Patreon reach out and say, hey, can you please maybe add a couple books, add some things to the Marvel, because it does seem like it's kind of top loaded with the DC show that can get to be now 7 hours long. I think this week it's about 4 hours long, but that's compared to sometimes the Marvel podcast being 50 minutes long. And some might say that sounds wonderful, 50 minutes, but the whole deal is that it's just tough to find books to get excited about at Marvel. And then sometimes you do get excited about them, and then they end and come back with a new number one. Then they do this. It's all over the place. But with that, we did add a couple books. And this week we had stuff like Daredevil, which I did like. And last week I had dropped the whole Moon Knight stuff, and I hadn't even read any Fist of Khonshu, that part of it. And Jed MacKay actually really, impressed me. I really liked it. It was a fun issue with 8-Ball, so I kind of opened my eyes a bit. But next week, there's not much at all. I want to pull it up, but I'm going to be doing the preview show. But then again, the preview show is me talking about books that I'm looking forward to. As I'm about to cough, I'm having problems here, people. All right, I'm back. But yeah, the idea of the preview show probably won't deal with it, but I'll probably talk about the idea of not having a lot of Marvel stuff. But there's not much at all. It really looks like it's slim pickings. I'm looking now. I'm trying to pull it up to tell everybody. DC has some big things. I'll give you a little preview of the deals that we'll be talking about anyway. But you end up having, I'm looking. You have Absolute Flash, which I'm looking forward to. Detective Comics, Nightwing. You end up having the Tom King Wonder Woman, which is always stellar, right? No. But it's Batman and Wonder Woman. The last time that happened, he completely plagiarized an issue of Action Comics. But you also have World's Finest starting out that We Are Yesterday event. Titans dealing with the reemergence of Deathstroke. New Gods, which I do like from Ram V. Zatanna, which looks great but needs to be a little better story. Things like that. Now, at Marvel, though, and that was more of what I wanted to get into. I got to hit this thing to tell you. You have Ultimate Wolverine #4. I'm not enjoying it, but some people are. You have all the different X-Men. You have Iron Man. Oh, my goodness. Spectacular Spider-Man. They're all the books that I don't like. Godzilla versus Hulk. Okay. We're going to be probably talking about that. Superior Avengers. And I'm like, it's a one world under. Oh, it's Steve Fox. Oh, my goodness. But we'll probably talk about that. You have Sam Wilson Cap. Web of Venomverse. Fresh Brains. Power Man Timeless. Woo! You have Star Wars Legacy of Vader, with that freaking, what's his name? I'm telling you, that, I wanted to even like that because I love Star Wars, but it has bitchy Kylo Ren, and that Cable Love and Chrome #4, some people are enjoying, but the rest are X-Men books. And Red Band Daredevil Unleash Hell with Elektra. Not great. Not a great week. Not a great week at all. But with all that, and well, here's the thing. Brandon just said, and the pool party was great. That was great with 8-Ball. That was the best. I love that. But yeah, and Fear Monarch also said Transformers has a big built-up moment with a Megatron-focused issue, fill-in artist. Yeah, some people were kind of cringing. And me and Sully talked about earlier. Sully's worried because the whole Daniel Warren Johnson writing seems to be getting closer and closer at 24, and then we'll see what's going on, and that might be trouble. I'm not a huge Transformers guy. I'm more of a G.I. Joe guy in that whole deal with the Energon universe, so I did drop the Transformers, but some people are still enjoying it. But this week, I heard a lot of people complaining about it, and Brandon said Marvel can recover. DC at Batman with Dr. Capdio, for God's sakes, and look at it now. I agree. Here's the thing. There's always those, peaks and valleys. And where DC was, remember Rebirth. People were so excited about it, right? Right before that DC YOU, right after Convergence, when Dan Didio came out and said, listen, we're going to go story over continuity. It was more crap over crap. That was awful. If you remember, that was Bat Bunny, what's his name? Gordon Batman. Superman lost his powers. Wonder Woman, whatever. You had everything was a wreck. You end up having the Goofy miniseries and stuff like that. Then Rebirth hits and it's great. And then that ends up where that falls apart. So if you really go with the trend, you'd be like, well, I'm worried to get excited because it's always going to fall apart. But it always does that. And right now, I think that one of the biggest things that's going on, there's just not a lot of great writers out there who want to write at the big two. And when they end up writing at the big two, they are told what to write. And I'm even saying there's not enough editors that are former writers that can give these newer writers any sort of pointers. You end up where half of these editors, I don't know what the hell they did before becoming DC or more DC on that front. But at Marvel, their problem is they have older editors who are stuck in their ways. They end up being bullshit, all that. But there's some books I'm looking forward to. The Matt Fraction Batman, because I want to see I want to see what's going on there. I want to see the Chip Zdarsky cap. There's some things coming down the line, but again, I need to have like where you get a Jeremy Adams, who's the kind of the big new writer at DC. We need like 5 more of them at each company, and then we'll be excited. Maybe Donny Cates comes back, stops like crashing boats into docks and things and having weird stuff happen, because I think he's a great writer. And I think that you just need a new crop of writers to kind of show up, and writers who want to write comics. And that would be the biggest thing in my little soapbox thing right now. I think Jeremy Adams again proves that if you're excited about writing comics, you might be able to write exciting comics. And he's excited about it. Some of these others you could see interviews with them, or if you meet them at cons, and you just get the feeling that they think they're above it already, and they're writing for a Netflix TV show, or they think they're pitching a movie, that they think comics are beneath them. And that's bullshit. That's complete and utter bullshit. And that's like somebody like a Tom King. I think he writes to try to I don't like regular comics. I need to be elevated. But when he elevates it in just misery. He pretty much, in my mind, if anybody's ever said this, and it's not that I don't like this, but he's the grunge of the comic book deal, where a lot of people are having fun with the hair metal. They're going there, they're having these great shows, and then Tom King shows up with this misery, and it's the grunge. But I love grunge, but still, it ends up where everything's dark and dismal, and it's not cool to be it drives me nuts. But that's the problem. I do really like grunge still, so I shouldn't go with that. But it just ends up really feeling like there's a lot of writers who don't like writing comics. They do it because that's what they can do, maybe, but they don't want to do anything but elevate themselves by looking fancy and things like that. And yeah, Brandon says, Tom doesn't care about the character. He forms whoever it is into his own personal grievance. I said some of the catchphrases, and we've been doing this a long time. I've been reviewing and doing podcasts, but 10 years. We've never missed a week either. And so in that, I've come up with a couple phrases with the old Tom King. And one is he'll definitely fit a square character into a round story. He usually ends up having a story in his mind. Then they assign a character, and he just jams that shit in. And he doesn't care, because it's his deal of saying, well, my version of that character. And what happens is them fans of him, Tom King, end up arguing with you, and argue with people like, you're a fan of a character for 30 years. And these fans of Tom King will argue that you don't know anything about the character like they know, because they read 1-2 issues of Tom King. It's bullcrap. That's what it is. My other thing is, too, and maybe think of this, and I love coming up with phrases and things like that. Not catchphrases, but things like the idea where one of the things is that Tom King can be a good writer until he writes your favorite character, because that's when you realize that he's bullshit. When he writes some character that you legit know, then you realize that he does not get the characters. That's why he is great with writing obscure characters, because he's not great at them. You just don't know better. You just like, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that Adam Strange was a genocidal maniac. Oh my God. What? You say that Mr. Terrific was glad that his wife and unborn kid died? Oh my goodness, I never knew that. Oh yeah, there's Jim find the Tom King killing of the character song for the outro. And this is the deal. Yeah, we might be talking for another 4 hours. I do have a bunch of Tom King songs, but a lot of them are parody songs that would get flagged. I do also have, and that's the deal, where I do have the song that I had the craziest idea, and I thought it would work. So crazy it would work, that I was going to do from no written reviews anymore, and not even none of it. I was going to do parody song reviews. So every issue that would come out and I'd review, it would be done in like a 2-minute song. I thought it was pretty cool. It didn't catch on. But I do have one from earlier on where I do end up talking about Tom King and Wonder Woman. And I said in the song that I wish it was Black Label, because I think that Diana's going to end up dead. And then he kind of revealed that in the last issue that, yeah, eventually she will be dead, and not in a way of, oh, yeah, everybody dies eventually. No, in the future with Lizzie and Trinity that she's dead. So I was like, that's pretty good. Also in that song, it was like I don't know which one it was, but it was also that I gave it an FU5 because it was bullcrap. So I also have a song. I could actually even play the Space Mall song as well. But Mark McGrath says the full-time artist in TMNT is fantastic. And that is the Juan Ferreira. And he is one I would like to consider him a friend of mine. I have talked to him many a time, and I have loved him for the longest time, and because of that, and he listens to our podcast and stuff occasionally. I think it was more back in the day, but legitimate, he has put me personally in, I think, 7 or 8 DC Comics issues that I'm there. And some of them I have just a Weird Science shirt with the name Jim on it. And you might not even ever like, oh, I never saw that. When you go and look, and it's more in Green Arrow, back when he did that with Ben Percy with the Rebirth deal. And every time I would show up, I would die. But also he did a couple issues of Old Man Logan at Marvel, and I was in one of those as well, getting killed as well. So I'm actually been in both the Marvel and DC universe, which I think I should have like a fandom wiki entry for me being in there, and all of my various deaths should be in there, but it's not. But I think I will. I think I will go, and I think it's like Wonder Woman 6 is where I ended up having this, musical review and predicting that indeed by the end of it, he would end up killing Wonder Woman. So I was darn right. Now I have to find it. I probably won't be able to find it, but I did find it, and I put it up because I always like being right. Most people like to be right, but yeah, I think I found it. So I ended up putting it up on our Patreon just when I read it. And I'm like, holy crap. I remember I did predict this. So I'll put that out there. Maybe even I did play the Batman AF song on the outro of me and Sully talking this morning. So I don't want to put that, but I'm thinking, do I have any other newer songs as well? Let me see. Let's see. Do I have anything with driving double bass? Says the 8 Deaths of Weird Science Jim, a new special event. Yeah, I probably did. Also, V. Ken Marion, who's been on The Aficionados, been on Wes's channel, I mean. I ended up, he put me, and he would put me and Eric, who was doing the show with me. We were in a couple issues that he did, and we died. It was like the whole thing all the time. Oh, there, and Matt Fisher wants to talk Rush. He said, music reviews, let's talk Rush. Matt is, I'm telling you right now, Matt's a great guy. I appreciate it. But he also asked me about when we had that 4.5 hour deal. He asked me about my opinion of, what's it called? Pink Floyd. And I said I was never a huge Pink Floyd fan, though I like some of their songs. I might piss him off again with Rush. But I will tell you, first off, I think Rush is, any drummer is always going to be a Rush fan. And then you end up having the idea of like, I like Rush. I don't love them. I like things a little grittier, but I've grown to like them more. I will tell you, I've actually become more of a fan of Rush. And actually, I'll tell you, I'm a real big fan of Geddy Lee as a person, even Alex Lifeson, R.I.P. Neil Peart, but I always say it wrong anyway, but the idea of them, they seem like really nice guys. I've watched actually some documentaries and stuff just because I think, and Geddy Lee loves the baseball. He loves the rotisserie baseball and things like that because it tastes good, that rotisserie. But I got to find these songs here. But thank you, Matt. I do like Rush. I just don't love them. And yeah, there it is. Neil is one of the best drummers, if not the best modern deal. He would probably go, look, that Buddy Rich is. Now, Matt said he's hyperventilating. Like I said, I've grown to like them a lot more recently, but I was around when I was in a band, like that, the drummer you couldn't say anything bad. And I listened to a lot of Rush. He was from Amityville, New York. And we would drive back and forth from there to Morgantown, West Virginia. And when we ended up going, we would listen to nothing but Rush. And if you know the band, you may not. It was a band that probably should have been bigger, but the band Zebra that we would listen to a lot because he loved them as well. And then Fearmonic said, Geddy's a good guy. Like, he's genuinely seems like a really, really good guy. So, and I always appreciate that as well because, I'm not one of those. It's tough, when you're a bad guy, you kind of say, well, I wish I was more like that Geddy Lee. Plus, I wish I could sing that high. That'd be pretty cool. That's why I love when people got the reaction when they first heard Rush, like in clubs and things like that, that they thought it was a girl singing. Poor Geddy. Poor Geddy. Beautiful girl, too. But yeah, that's the thing. That's the problem with, and I did mention the thing with, it was with Pink Floyd again, the idea that I don't really love a band where you could have an album where it has 3 songs. That's not my thing. I actually really, really love like 2-minute songs. 3 minutes gets long, and then you get Hey Jude, and even I'm bailing. Like, I can't take it anymore. But those crazy La Villa Strangiato and, Red Barchetta, things like that. Though one of the things that the drummer in our band, he kept saying about the idea, you got to listen to these songs, man. It'll blow your mind. And I'm like, okay, oh, the trees? Oh, yeah, I see. Oh, yeah, the maples. And it made me, I don't want to make fun of it, but I was like, I think I wrote a song like this when I was in 6th grade. I thought I was really smart. I don't want to make fun of Neil. Neil was a great guy as well. They were very good guys. So let me find this. Matt's gonna bail and never talk to me again. Though I was listening to a lot of Led Zeppelin the last couple of days. I can go for that. But yeah, the Swans. They any band that ends up having songs that are like 40 minutes, and also the funny thing about Rush that I used to make fun of the drummer about is the idea when we were in a band, and it was a cover band. We would play some songs, our own songs or whatnot, but it was a cover band. But the problem is that when you're out and doing that, there will be a lot of people who will come and watch you that either in other bands or whatever, but people would constantly come up and say, you got to play Rush. Can you play, even as basic as Tom Sawyer, you got to play Tom Sawyer, you got to play Rush. And I used to keep telling them, my joke was that we would play and everybody be dancing. You can't dance when you're changing time signatures 17 times. Everybody's all bad. They're going to fall over. And then people would get mad at me. And then he says, I think that Matt then says in the super chat, hey, Jim, don't be so sad. Play a song and make it better. He's making fun of the Hey Jude, but I think he's also saying, please get the hell out of here because you're rambling again and we don't need to be here till 12 midnight. But yeah, Hey Jude, not my favorite Beatles song. I said the other day, Rain was my favorite Beatles song. But I'm looking here. I don't want to get caught up in that. There's YYZ. See, people are trying to, they're getting me all riled up again. Tool makes some long songs. I'd drive from Jersey to Massachusetts, 3 albums, and I'd be there. There are some funny plays, though. In that side note, when we had our long podcast, which did get to be, not a joke, 13 hours long at points, Batman Beyond Mark, a guy who listens and does contribute a lot, ended up where he was going on a trip to Israel. This was a bunch of years ago, but he was flying to Israel, and he started one of our podcast episodes, and it finished right as he was landing, because I guess it would have been about a 12, 13-hour flight. I'm not sure if that matches up, but that's what he told me. That's pretty crazy. It's the Hey Jude of podcasts there. But I'm going to play us out of here. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, everybody, so much. Thanks for the super chats, Matt. I really appreciate it. Everybody with their questions, everybody showing up. Please like, subscribe, all that nonsense that I rarely say right and whatnot. But I hope people are enjoying more shows, more live shows. I have fun hanging out and doing them. While we were doing this, my dog is looking at me because she wants to go for a walk. And she keeps like, oh my, I swear to God, how most people are, and you could watch while you're doing this, you end up having your stats and all these things up while you're looking at the stream and stuff in the chat. And I see people like bailing out. You see them as they leave. And at the same time, my dog is looking at me like, jerk, don't start talking about Rush. I want to rush my ass out and go to the bathroom, is what she's saying. I'm like, we'll get there. We will get there, but I don't know if I should announce it when I do it, but I think one time, if things kind of line up or whatever, I do think that I still want to do a 24-hour stream. I want to just like Friday night till Saturday night, something along those lines of just keep on keeping on. Even if you fall asleep, just keep it on. Though I did hear that at a point they do stop. You're forced to stop the stream and restart it, which that's bull crap. I don't like that. But yeah, we could certainly do it. We could certainly do it. I'll tell you, on Friday night, I was all, hyped up. And I did mention the idea that I had just gotten my Adderall prescription filled. And when I hadn't for like a week, I'd been out and I couldn't get it filled and all this nonsense because they were out. And it did hit me. It usually doesn't hit me. I said that usually it makes me tired. And that's kind of what's hitting me today. Right now, I don't have the vigor that I had on Friday when we were talking. I more have a goofy, I'm really tired thing, I think, going on now. And even when me and Sully were talking this morning, I couldn't remember some things, and it drove me nuts. It drove me completely insane. And this is Fear Mark said, one of my goals if I start streaming is to stream getting a Dead Rising achievement, and you need like 20 hours in real time. What kinds of playing? I did play Dead Rising back in the day. I used to play tons of video games. That was like my thing for at least like right before comics kind of took that over. And to go through, see, this is what happens now. Fear Monarch, you son of a gun. The idea where these things extend because of stuff like this. It's where right before, usually because of the things that happen in my crazy old brain, and you could kind of put two and two together to figure out exactly what I'm saying is wrong with me. But the idea where I usually have one thing that I'm into and I'm hyper-focused on. And right before I started with comics, it was video games. And the video games, that was for about 10 years of just straight up video games. Nothing else. I would end up news of video. Nothing could get by me. That's all I was focused on. And then I started reading comics. Boom, that became a thing. And I pretty much never played a video game again. The problem being, though, is that, yeah, Dungeon Crawler, Carl, I'm with you. The thing is, amphetamines like that, and it does make me feel like when, and I have that part of me, I have more of the inattentive deal of I don't have hyper. I don't have the hyper ADHD. I have inattentive. So what happens is, 3 hours disappear and I don't even know where they went, and somebody's talking to me and I don't even hear it, though I'm looking right at them. Or I read a comic and I get 10 pages in and realize I don't remember reading one word. It's like white line fever all the time. And that happens again sometimes. I know, I'm telling you, that outhouse is the worst too. With all that, the idea, now I lost my train of thought. When I take the Adderall, it does help me to focus a little at a point, but I feel more like I'm walking through syrup a lot. It feels like everything's just a little bit beyond me grasping it. So sometimes, though, things kind of align. And the other night, I'm telling you, on Friday night when we were talking, like, things were popping. I was remembering everything. I wasn't having problems at all. Yeah, there it is. Eagles channel. It is. But yeah, again, there's like the weirdest things and what I get all hyped up for. And what I was going to tell you is I kind of made it specific. I was probably the video games, maybe a little longer, but about 10 years. But these hyper-focused things with me, they have a shelf life. And I've gone past that with the comics. And there are points where I have to admit that I think like, yeah, I really have to force I think there was a lull at one point where I had to kind of pick myself up and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. And I've set all these things up and whatnot. I have to keep going. But all it takes is like a couple good books and talking to different people, and it does get me fired up again. And I think I've kind of reset it being comics again, because at one point I did end up like I was going to start a bunch of other podcasts, maybe get back into gaming. The problem is with gaming, it takes so much effort and so much time to play the things, and I read and do all these things. But Adam Frey says he'll take an Eagles-Ravens Super Bowl. I'd go for that, though. Ravens should be so much better. I mean, they are really good, and Lamar is awesome, but it's just they got to get over the hump. And that's the thing. In MH Comics Invictus, he says, if the Colts ain't in the Super Bowl, go NFC, and that's awesome. That's the thing. I'm sure that we could probably talk about Carson Wentz for a while, because I ended up at the point when Carson went to, and I loved Carson for a bit, and then all the wheels went off and you realize he was kind of a jerk. But then when he went to the Colts, The Colts fans were like, "Oh, no, he there's nothing wrong with him. He's awesome. The Eagles fans are the problem. It's the Eagles fans." And then that's what happened. I think Carson became the Tom King of football. You think that he's going to fix things when he comes to your team, and he never does. Because then I'll tell you that MH probably even says, and probably had a little bit of it if he was really involved. When the Redskins then grabbed Carson, they were telling the Colts fans that they were the problem. That trade, the Eagles, thank you, Colts, for all that you gave us and all that stuff, plus also Minnesota back in the day too. But yeah, Adam Frey said, "I'm a Philly guy who lives near Baltimore. Birds on birds." And the birds on birds is always sexy. But we're getting to the thing all around. And yeah, and yeah, maybe you'll never record again. And he says, "Just play a couple casual matches of Balatro, you'll get the itch back." I did. I've told this story before. When I ended up and it was kind of near each other, just to go and date things. I got the Xbox, the GameCube, and the PlayStation 2 almost it was around that same time. And I would always, that was one thing, I would always get the new systems. And I'd always pre-order them with these crazy bundles and things like that. In fact, when the PlayStation 2, I think it was the PlayStation 2, it was coming out, and Tanya, my wife, wanted to surprise me. It had come in, but I had to work this one weekend, so I thought, oh, I'll get it on Sunday. But she went on Saturday to get it. People were lined up. They were pissed. She got it, and there were people following around the mall. But when I did get the Xbox, I got Halo with it. And I got sick. I threw up the first time I played it. I got motion sickness, and I didn't play it for a while. And then I played it and finished it, and got mad that there was a vehicle level at the end. I didn't like that, but there you go. But yeah, I loved when I got my GameCube, PlayStation 2, and the Xbox. Were real cool. That was some cool times. Still haven't found the song that I was going to go, but I do have that Tom King review of me reviewing Wonder Woman. And you know what? As a thing, screw it. I'm actually going to play the song that is also a Tom King pen song, because it's a song that, and people might remember, but in the Trinity backup in one of the Wonder Womans, you ended up where they went to see Black Canary, and she was on stage singing. Damien was loving it. It was, this whole big deal. And I ended up using those lyrics and made the song around those that I kind of actually really liked. I thought it was a pretty cool song. But let me find that. And I always do this and never know which one is which, but because I have a bunch, I wish I could check it out. I think it might be this one. And Adam says, "Jim, not a comics question, but what's the easiest way to get from Allentown to Lower Bucks County without a car? Since SEPTA doesn't go to Lehigh." That's a problem. Yeah, what's a weird thing? My wife right now is going back and forth between Delaware, and she ends up having to take the bus. And at one point, there was and they've even cut back on some of those. They've cut back on the bus deal, so she had some problems with that. So I'm telling you, I would say the easiest to Lower Bucks, you could go and take the bus if you could get to Colmar and then get on the train there, or get to Lansdale, which is close to us. But Allentown, you might have to take like an Uber from there to Allentown, and that's not that close. It might be trouble, but yeah, that's a deal. And that is a legitimate question. But what we had done is you get to either Lansdale or Colmar, and then you're actually on 309. You could go you just go straight to Allentown from there, but it's still, you'll go through Quakertown. You could give me a honk there, but I think that might be the best way. And yeah, if there's a bus to if you get the bus to Doylestown, but then you still have to get to the deal. So, and Adam says, "My kid in Allentown needs to get to my parents for Easter. She has no car, and they're in their 80s. Yeah, I think that's so. If you're in Allentown, you do have to get to either Doylestown, but I would say get to Colmar to get to the train. There's a train station there, and it's right on the main strip, the main, highway 309. Amish buggy would not get you there. But I would think that would be trouble. I'd have to look. I'll look, and I'll try to get a hold of you, because there are probably some other things. Hello, everybody. This is Jim Werner on traffic. Abbey Road here with traffic. Things are a little blocked up on the overpass as we get towards the Quakertown area. Things are not backed up here in Quakertown with Jim. He's running out, pretty much on the reg to the outhouse. So things are definitely not blocked up there on that highway of the Hershey variety. And that is traffic here with Jim. I'm you say that. One of the things, and that's the thing. If I was going to do that, and Adam says, who needs KYW? If I'm going to do KYW, I wish I had it. I need that typewriter stupid sound effect in the back. It's going to like, here's the news. It drives me nuts. That and you might know, there's some FM station, and I don't know if they still do it, but at points, there's like the biggest echo of everybody on that station. They come into the station, and it's like everybody's got, it sounds like they're recording in a cave. I don't think it's that the stations change a lot, but yeah, the KYW, every time they go in, it would, and that would make me tired. My dad would listen to KYW News in Philadelphia area, and it was that typewriter sound in the background. I'm like, man, listen to them people type. Listen to that crap. Drives me nuts. But that is it. That is it. We're going to end with my little review of, I think, Wonder Woman 6 that does mention and predicts that Tom King would indeed kill Wonder Woman. And then from there, we'll go into a Tom King written song that he wrote at the back for a Trinity backup in the Wonder Woman book that would have been sung by the famous Dinah Lance / whatever and Black Canary. So that's it. Thanks, everybody. I'll be back tomorrow night to do the preview show. I hope everybody enjoyed themselves. Thanks, everybody, for the support. It really does mean a lot. And if you do get a chance, check out the show notes here. If you like and appreciate all these things, I want to get more. And not just me yapping and yapping. It's with a lot of people, Gray, who you should be aware of, even Sully and some other people as well, where we have our Patreon, where we do a ton of shows, a ton of reading clubs. We go through stuff that's manga, DC, Marvel, indie, everything, and then everything in between, like bus schedules and music and sports. I like to talk about just about anything, though I'm like the jack of no trades, master of none. That just means I'm an idiot. So with that, thanks, everybody. I hope you had a great week. I hope that we are all excited about the books next week. And we have a bunch of stuff going on where we will have a best of that is just as good as this one. So thanks, everybody. And I will talk to you all later. And that was not the song that I wanted to play. That is not, oh, goodness gracious. I'll play the Green Arrow song. Right when I hit that, I'm like, that did not sound like it. Let me find this a bit. I got to find this Wonder Woman thing. That was a different version. Ay, ay, ay. What is, see, this is what happens in these things. And I'm looking now. I hope I can find it. There it is. Hey, everybody. Yes, MH and the Colts go Colts. That's what you call a misstart or misstop. Here it is. I have it. Thanks, everybody. And I'll talk to you. That's still loading up. This is a disaster. This is the worst. These are the things that cause me all sorts of problems. It is just loaded up. I don't know what took so long. I should put, things in there.
Catch me outside. How about that?
There you go.
Bing bong.
All right. Here it goes. Thanks, everybody, and I'll talk to you later.
I like the way this looks, but Tom King can pace a book, and I don't like anything Wonder Woman said. I wish that we were able to go back and make this black label, 'cause I'm worried that Diana's gonna end up dead. Now I'm being more than empirical, you haven't done anything since Mr. Miracle, because everything you write just feels contrived. Fuck you, 5. That's what I'm giving Wonder Woman don't have to be a bird to be heard. You can say I'm unique, that you love how I speak, that I'm all that you seek. But honey, you'll never, never be in my Justice League. And it hit me